History is being erased right under our noses, and we are none the wiser.
Video games have been a main staple in modern-day society.
Unfortunately, games have been disappearing at a rapid pace now that these video games are succumbing to age.
Instead of recognizing this phenomenon and taking action against this, many big-name companies tend to neglect their older titles, opting to sweep it under the rug.
If fans don't save their ROMs, then they're gone. For good.
What is lost media? Well, it's kind of in the name. It's a form of media that becomes inaccessible to the general public. Take HBO Max's original show, Close Enough, for example. This was a show that had a whole 3 seasons exclusive to the HBO Max streaming service. But because of a merger with Discovery Plus, HBO decided to cancel Close Enough, and a few months after, completely remove it from the streaming service. Luckily for Close Enough, it was a fairly well-known animated show, and had other streaming services like Vudu, Prime Video, and Apple TV pick it up to watch today. It's a common risk for films to be turned into lost media, so many producing companies create backups, some sort of way to preserve their creation so it won't be lost forever. But there's one type of media that isn't so fortunate: video games. Video games are like a ticking clock. They are here now, but they won't be here forever. Unlike film media, most games are stuck on older, deteriorating consoles that have not been updated or remade to be compatible with newer technology. Some companies have started selling games digitally, but even those games are prone to being lost. Just last March, Nintendo shut down its 3DS and Wii U eShops and caused many digital games to be lost, and fans disappointed. This shutdown caused the community to come together and come up with lists of games to purchase before it shut down. Some fans even passionate enough to do what most people thought were impossible.
I bought every Nintendo 3DS and Wii U game on the eShop.
But this wouldn't be the only case of older consoles' online shops closing down. Many before have shut down with similar reaction from the gaming community. But what kind of games would these shutdowns affect? It's clear that this won't be a problem for headline top-selling games like Minecraft or Call of Duty. So which games are prone to being lost in time?
With the influx of companies not doing their part in keeping media preserved and accessible to the public, many video games have gone missing. Whether this is due to Flash Player closing down, arcade cabinets disappearing, there not being any physical copies left of the game, ROMs not being uploaded online, or games being canceled before they can be completely finished, they all qualify as lost media. Sometimes, in the case that they are uploaded online, there are some games that have not been translated into different languages, thus limiting the reach of the game to a limited audience. However, there are some games that have ROMs uploaded to the internet, but there are no legal ways to play the games without buying physical copies of the game from someone else. An example of this would have to be Mario and Luigi, Partners in Time. Despite being sold 17 years ago, it appears as though Nintendo is not putting any effort to port the games onto a new console, rather letting the games fade away into obscurity. The entire Monogatari series is another example of this. Known for its spin-off series, Puyo Puyo, the company that developed the series, Compile, went out of business due to bankruptcy. As a result, D4 Enterprise now owns the rights to the games. While they have gone to release a new game in 2013, the older games have been left to rot. While they can be obtained using shadier measures, there are no legal ways to obtain them outside of buying them secondhand. Also, most of the PC-98 entries and Sega Saturn entry have not been translated into English, so in order to play them, you're either going to have to know Japanese or use a translator. What both of these games have in common is that they are lost to time due to their companies not preserving them themselves. The only way to access them without spending an exorbitant amount of money is to use underhanded methods to secure the ROM files and to play them on an emulator, which is truly a shame. Thankfully for Mario & Luigi and Monogatari, we have the ROM files to be able to play the game. However, there are few games that only have screenshots. And it just so happens that many arcade games also suffer from a similar fate, as there are many cabinets that can be considered lost media. One of the most intriguing ones in my opinion has to be Pyramid. While not much is known about this game, The game was first seen on a Japanese TV show called Game Center CX, where a man was seen playing the game as the narrator narrates his actions. We also know it was a breakout style game where you would hit a ball to rack up points and hit cobras. We also know that it was planned to release as both a raster and a cocktail cabinet have been made of the game. The only footage of this game comes from a YouTube video of the game's attract mode. Compared to the first two games, this one is more lost due to the fact that only footage exists for the game, but it's not alone in that regard. Halo DS, Dracula Hunter. Fun fact, the cabinet was listed on a Japanese auction site, but the winner is either anonymous or the listing was taken down, and many more. But how do you prevent games from getting to this state in the first place?
So, this is a tricky one. To solve game preservation, technology must be developed and maintained to ensure the ability to access and play older games on modern systems. The purpose of servers is to host an online platform for people to connect to. Servers allow the players to download files online, the ROMs, and connect to multiplayer platforms. A perfect example of this would be the Nintendo eShop or the Xbox Game Store, which allows players to buy and download games online. Many people don't know where the files they download actually come from. Really, it's just coming from a big computer. Servers need to be frequently maintained, or else the files on those servers can no longer be downloaded online, which is why it is very important we do not leave these servers to be forgotten. Unfortunately, forgotten servers are a bit more common than you may think. There have been many reports online showing running servers that haven't been used since the early 2000s, with one Reddit user even saying, in 2001, an IT at UNC decided to do a server audit. They realized that they could not find one of their best performing servers. Eventually, having to resort to following the physical cabling, they hit a wall. Literally. The server had been buried behind a wall during remodeling for over 4 years. When servers are left to sit for very long periods of time, they are basically prone to crashing, leaving those files stored in them a ticking time bomb. And unfortunately, forgotten servers isn't the only thing. Many companies have decided to shut down their multiplayer servers because the game was simply getting old with low active players. A great example of this would be the iconic Halo 3. On January 13th, 2022, the Halo 3 Xbox 360 servers shut down for good, over 14 years after the game debuted. This news went absolutely viral on social media, as many were devastated to see their favorite multiplayer vanish for eternity. Moving on from servers, preservation efforts require resources such as funding and expertise to store and maintain the games and related materials. For example, developers wanting to remaster an old game for a new console will need funds for the development process. Collaboration between game developers, publishers, museums, libraries, and other organizations is crucial in preserving the history of video games for future generations. Organizations, such as the Video Game History Foundation, are dedicated to preserving games by storing the files on servers and hard drives so players can always have a reliable way to access them. This is one of the few ways that we still have to keep lesser known and older video games a part of history. It's sad to think about, but the closing of Nintendo eShop for 3DS and Wii U is just the beginning of this sad story. As the clock ticks, history is being erased before our eyes, leaving fewer ways to access these precious time capsules. This is why we encourage all that are watching to save what they have, because one day, that game could be a hidden gem. By addressing these challenges together, we can ensure that video games are preserved and made accessible for everyone to enjoy and cherish for many generations to come.